footballing god to his countrymen, in a few short years, Diego Maradona had come a long way, from impoverished beginnings to world superstar.
Life was very hard. There were 8 mouths to feed, and the only one working was my dad.
He became the youngest ever debutant in the Argentinian top flight.
That's where my big dream started, about playing for big teams and buying a house for my mum.
Aged just 20 when he moved to Buenos Aires Giants Boca Juniors, he became the game's most expensive player.
The country went mad as Maradona joined Argentina's most popular club.
His first World Cup appearance in 1982 ended on a sour note. Maradona was sent off against arch-rivals Brazil, but it was becoming clear both on and off the pitch that the Argentinian number 10 was no ordinary footballer. Throughout the years, many of the world's finest footballers have graced the Camp Nou, wearing the famous Blaugrana shirt of Barcelona. And it was in the Catalan capital where the Diego Maradona story continued. In the 21st century, Barca's fans have celebrated much success, both at home and abroad. But when Maradona joined them in 1982, major silverware had been hard to come by. Back then, Dutch duo Johan Cruyff and Johan Neeskens were the biggest foreign names to have worn the famous shirt. But now a 21-year-old superstar had arrived from Argentina, primed and ready to lead them to honours. Spain's second city had been the scene of his red card against Brazil just weeks before. Maradona had a lot to prove. His arrival in Barcelona had been a long time coming.
It all began in 1977, when I went to Argentina on a scouting mission. I actually went there to look at a right-back who was playing for Argentinos Juniors, called Jorge Lopez. And in one of those matches, Diego made his debut. Even at 15, he was amazing when he had the ball. He was fantastic. And I tried to bring him to Barcelona there and then. But the club did not have the funds at the time to buy a 15-year-old youngster.
At that time, Argentina was ruled by a military dictatorship, and the government was adamant that Maradona remained in the country until the 1982 World Cup. He was initially refused permission to leave, but Minguella's persistence paid dividends.
I returned to Argentina and started negotiations with Boca Juniors. In the end, before travelling back to Spain for the World Cup, which was starting at the beginning of June, the contract was signed by the two clubs, Barca and Boca, and the player.
The country's economy was in a bad state, and we wouldn't even get paid. Clubs simply couldn't afford to keep their players. So Barcelona came along with the money, and they got me. I just wish that the economy had been strong enough for the clubs to keep their players. Today, any talented kid heads off to Europe straight away. And I suppose the same happened to me. Barcelona came along with a lot of dollars, and they took me to Europe.
Once again, signing for such a big club meant the pressure was on.
He was seen as something of a saviour back then, because it was some time since Barcelona had won a title. Nothing had been won since Cruyff's time, and we thought that with Diego, we were almost guaranteed to win the league.
I'd say that no player has created such expectation, such passion and such interest as Maradona did. And so, Maradona was king. He was the main attraction. He came here with everyone expecting him to become the best player in the world, and in doing so, make Barcelona the best club in the world.
With expectations heightened, Maradona delivered. On the pitch, he was delighting the fans, and in the dressing room, he was gaining new friends.
When he arrived, I acted as his host, explaining to him what the city was like and the club, because the motto is more than a club, and he had to understand the uniqueness of being from Barcelona and how the Catalans feel. He quickly got to grips with that. I have to say that when he arrived, he was very humble. He'd collect balls and bring them to us. There was no sign of the notoriety that plagued him later, when he became world famous.
Maradona hit form early, but was struck down by hepatitis in December 1982. He was out of action for 3 months, and he was sorely missed.
With Diego, it would have been different. He would have definitely given us more points. He was just unlucky to pick up the illness, and we just had to accept it and help him.
When he did recover, he inspired Barca to the Spanish Cup final, where they met their arch-rivals Real Madrid in Zaragoza. The Catalans took a first-half lead when Maradona set up Victor Muñoz. But early in the second half, Gerardo Miranda gifted Carlos Santillana an equaliser.
It was a strange, hard-fought game, typical Madrid versus Barca, and they usually decided on small details.
I was with Bernd Schuster and others, talking, pulling up our socks, and we were saying extra time's coming, let's get some water. We saw the cross from Julio Alberto from one side and Pichon flying in from the other, and he put it past Miguel Angel, and there was a massive weight off our shoulders. It was the best feeling ever.
Marcos Alonso's injury time header proved to be the winner.
I mean, you've won the final, but you've won it against your bitter rivals, and that's special. If you beat Madrid, that's a bonus. For Diego, it was important, as it was the first title he'd won.
Barca president Josep Luis Núñez was reduced to tears. He'd fallen out with Maradona, but rumours that the Argentinian might leave after just one season proved unfounded. Yet despite Maradona's brilliance, Barcelona failed to complete the domestic double, finishing only 4th in the league. Maradona, though, had proved his worth. Following his illness earlier in the season, Barcelona were left to rue what might have been.
I think we could have won the league for sure. Why? We had a very good team back then, and we also had Diego, and he gave us an advantage others didn't have.
Failure to win the league title saw coach Udo Lattek sacked at the end of the season. He was a man with whom Maradona had never seen eye to eye, but he certainly did with his replacement, compatriot and former national team boss Cesar Luis Menotti.
Menotti had a very simple system. We played 4-3-3. It was based on us giving the ball to Diego. I remember Menotti asking us, "Why don't you give the ball to Diego?" And you'd reply, "Because the defender is marking him." And he'd respond, "When is Diego not marked?" Obviously that was the case. Diego was always marked. But when he was close to the box, he was lethal.
But early that season, disaster struck.
I didn't even manage to play a whole season for Barcelona. It was always a case of something getting in the way of our title challenge. First, it was hepatitis, which put me out for 3 months. And then the ankle injury, caused by Goycochea, which threatened to finish my career.
Athletic Bilbao's Andoni Goycochea received a yellow card for this challenge, but was subsequently handed an 18-match ban. On appeal, that number was reduced to 7.
I have never understood why that tackle took place there. I think that is why a lot of people thought the foul was intentional. But I don't think he was intending to cause him such harm.
Blood-curdling. I was part of the Spanish national team with Goico, and I still believe he didn't mean to break his ankle. I'm convinced of that.
He caught him with his standing foot on the ground. I realised as I was close to the centre circle along with Migueli and a few others that it was serious.
For 3 months, Maradona was sidelined once again, and Barca's title challenge hung in the balance. The Argentinian, though, fought back to the amazement and admiration of those around him. Maradona was still the star, but he was not a miracle worker. His absence proved critical, as again Barcelona struggled both at home and in Europe. Once more, they failed to win the league, finishing just 1 point behind Athletic Bilbao, who retained their title. But the Blaugrana did reach the Spanish Cup final again. They faced Bilbao, who were managed by Javier Clemente.
I don't know why, but Clemente said something against the Argentinians, and Menotti and Diego hit back. And when the game came around, we knew something was going to happen, and that Diego would be provoked.
This proved to be the case. Maradona was targeted, early and continuously.
Athletic weren't interested in getting into a technical battle on the pitch. They were a physical team and were just interested in stopping you playing.
It worked. Endika's goal gave Bilbao a 1-0 win.
I don't think we lost because of the referee, but in a way we weren't able to play. There was continuous fouling, foul after foul. There was no flow to the game. They were lucky to score. We had our chances but didn't take them, and they did.
At full time, it was madness. It was something very regrettable. Very, very regrettable. Because back then, football wasn't televised so much. And the image transmitted to Spain, Europe, and the rest of the world was not one of sport.
Maradona was a very good person, primitive in his own way, but good. And so the players like Migueli, Marcos, Paco Clos, they would have killed for him.
Maradona's career at Barcelona was over.
I said that if they banned Diego for a long time, he will not put up with it. So we were very aware that if they banned him for 2 months, he would leave.
Rojo's worst fears were realised. Maradona was handed a 3-month suspension by the Spanish FA, a ban he would never serve. At the time, rumours abounded that his personal life was affecting his form, and his relationship with club president Núñez was at rock bottom. Maradona never played for Barcelona again. During the mid-80s, Italy was the heartbeat of European football. Serie A was regarded as the strongest league in the world and was home to many of the game's finest players, such as France's Michel Platini. His club Juventus were reigning champions, with a star-studded team packed with Italian World Cup winners. But Maradona's destination was a surprise to everyone, not least to the man himself.
Barcelona was a fantastic city. And they told me that Naples was also a city like Barcelona. But when I got to Naples, it was a much smaller city, and it didn't have the things that I wanted.
The Neapolitans did match the Catalans in one aspect, their passion for football. But Napoli had been struggling. When Maradona joined, the club had just avoided relegation by a single point, and the honours list read just 2 Italian Cups. Napoli desperately needed a boost, and it came from Argentina.
I received the offer from Napoli. The thing is, Napoli didn't have the bank guarantee that allowed them to buy me. But after the money eventually appeared, and I don't know where it came from, it was time to move to Napoli. At my presentation, there were 75,000 people. I was there for just 20 minutes. I spoke to the Neapolitans and went off to Argentina for my holidays.
As expectations soared, the desire of the fans was almost tangible. Maradona mania engulfed the city, and the man himself settled in well and was excited by the challenge.
When I arrived for pre-season training, I went out on the first day, and there were 10,000 people there, waiting for us to start jogging and do a lap of the field. It was incredible. And I thought to myself, great, we're going to do something special here.
The first 2 seasons were trophyless at the Stadio San Paolo, as Napoli finished 8th and then 3rd in Serie A. And despite this being a sign of obvious improvement, Maradona wasn't happy.
For the first year, we didn't have the team to compete with the likes of Milan, Juve or Inter. There were teams like Verona who had strengthened. And it struck me that I had gone from Barcelona, a team challenging for every single title, to Napoli. It felt like I was going down to the second division, so that did worry me.
Following his second season at Napoli, Maradona spearheaded his country's assault on the World Cup in Mexico. For months, Argentina had been poor, and only a late equalizer against Peru in their final game secured qualification. But they still had one of the world's greatest players.
Our strength came from the fact that nobody believed in us. Everyone was expecting Platini would be the best in the world, or that Zico would be. I was in 7th or 8th place, and that was the same for Argentina.
Expectations were low, yet their relaxed manner in training belied the determination of Maradona and his teammates, who knew what was at stake.
When we left Argentina, we weren't playing well. We were playing quite poorly, and the fans weren't behind the team. And they were so-so towards Diego. There were some very important chats between the squad and the coach. We knew that we were playing for our lives in every game.
Argentina began their campaign against first-time finalist South Korea. Maradona led by example and proved instantly that he was ready to banish the memories of his previous World Cup.
The team was improving and becoming more motivated. And seeing Diego in such good form, it spread to us because he shouted at us and encouraged us. So we knew that Argentina had a star in Diego and that the rest of us accompanied him.
After defeating South Korea 3-1, Maradona scored the equalizer in a 1-1 draw against holders Italy. He was already the tournament's star player.
He had an incredible power and ability to intimidate opponents like no one else could. In every game, he did 10 things that only he could do.
A 2-0 win against Bulgaria helped Argentina finish top of their group. Confidence was growing. In the second round, Argentina faced their South American neighbours and rivals Uruguay. It was a clash which echoed the first World Cup final in 1930, won by Uruguay.
FIFA and the football world in Mexico were talking about it being the Battle of the River Plate. They thought we were going to kill each other.
They know us so well. We know each other so well. We're similar. We provoke each other verbally on the pitch, get stuck in, don't back down, and we both have good players. But we had Diego.
And Diego raised his game even further. It was a performance widely considered to be his best of the tournament.
In '86, we saw the best Maradona of all time, without a doubt. It was easy, because all we had to do was pass to him. We had to take it off our opponents and give it to Maradona, as we knew he would save the day.
During the early stages of the tournament, Uruguay had shown themselves to be a cynical team. Against Argentina, it was no different. Their game plan was one Argentina, and Maradona in particular, had faced before.
To defend and mark zonally, rough up Diego, and try to stop us from playing. They tested our patience and resolve with continuous fouling.
Argentina dominated the early exchanges, but struggled to make the breakthrough.
Whenever you play against Uruguay, you know it's going to be tough. They don't give you anything and are so strong defensively.
But Pedro Pasculi did break the deadlock, and Argentina won 1-0.
We deserved to have scored another, but we were just delighted to have finished the game as victors, because we'd eliminated a tough opponent.
Next time on Dios, one of the most controversial goals in the history of the game.
We saw it clearly that he went up and he used his hand and he punched it in. So we just expected the referee to give a free kick.
It was like I was a thief, stealing their wallets.
And just 4 minutes later, one of the greatest goals ever scored.
I was going at 100 miles an hour. Nobody was going to stop me. I think it was a goal you only dream about.
You got to hold your hands up and say it's a great piece of work by a fine player, a great player.
And Argentinian inspiration delivers Neapolitan delight.
We started to gain respect. And when we won our first Scudetto, they asked, "What's going on here?"